My name is Payan. I am with a national nonprofit. It's called Socially Responsible Agricultural Project, and we have various consultants that are all over the country, and we work with rural communities in order to protect their rural heritage and to promote sustainable type agriculture. And we're often called in by folks when they're dealing with some type of industrial agricultural threat, which could be anything from animal production, industrialized, factory farms, AKA, to processing plants. And we have some folks here within our communities. I work in Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So I have the Delaware region, Pennsylvania, and a few states up north that we don't see much of this in. So the folks here today are all from Sussex County, Delaware. Monica Brooks is going to be at the next session. She's running a little bit behind, and she is from Salisbury, Maryland. So let me go through a little bit of our board just to tell you. Of our panel. So over here we have Gina Burton. Gina is from Sussex County, Delaware, and she lives in a community which you may have seen. It's been getting quite a lot of news lately. They live by spray fields by an industrial plant, and this is a picture there that you can see. So when you have processing plants, poultry processing, Sussex County is one of the top states, top counties in the United States for industrial poultry processing. This is what they call spray irrigation. You're supposed to see like the misting water coming out of the fields after it goes through the processing plant. And this actually here, someone took the end cap off the pipe and they actually routed it through and was spraying this on the fields. It was not going through treatment. Now, Gina and her family lives on a little lane called Herbert Lane. And literally, this is their driveway, the end of their driveway, just beyond the window, right? Just beyond the window. This is where they're spraying, up to the gravel road. Not a buffer, not a tree, nothing. Let me go to Kenny. Kenny Haynes is also from Sussex County, Delaware. And Kenny deals with not only the odors from Mount Air. Now he is just across, and Jay, let me introduce all as well. Jay's from also this community. They're from a group called Protecting Our Indian River. And they are just across the river from them. They are dealing with industrial animal production as well, not only the Mount Air facility, also Allen Horan, which is another integrator, kind of like Tyson or Purdue or any of those. They were able to beat them back in 2013. They wanted to put a 2 million bird processing plant that was discharged into the Indian River, 2 million birds a week. They were able to stop that, and now they came back to do something less intensive, a deboning operation with bringing in raw material of 2.5 million pounds per week to debone. This is what they call an environmental justice area, and that's kind of what we were just hearing in the bulletin this morning. So these are folks that are overburdened with pollution. It's not one source, it's everywhere in the communities. Dr. Kirkland Hall, let me introduce here, is going to be in our next session. Dr. Hall lives in Wicomico County, Maryland. Somerset County, Maryland. Next to Wicomico, which is where Monica's from. But Somerset, and we'll probably get into that in the next session, is dealing with the same type of expansion. Poultry in Delmarva, I'm sure you've been reading the articles, has just been expanding at a rapid rate. And it's not the kind of agriculture that we had years ago where it was, 1 or 2 poultry houses on 100 acres. These you're dealing with some states, like Virginia, I have 24 650-foot poultry barns on what they call no land farms. Means no field surrounding it, right up next to a home, if you look across the there. So you're dealing with massive amounts of air pollution. By Gina's, and I'll let them tell their story. Water pollution, and it's just amazing to see the responses. So in the center here, okay, is Jonathan Niese, who is an attorney. The strategy is about legal sessions as well, legal strategies. I think, as we just heard in the ballroom, this is a tough fight because it's driven by very powerful interests with a lot of money that tend to put a lot of money into campaigns, and it's hard to get the message out, especially in an environmental justice community. So I think what I'm going to do is Kenny Haynes, I think I'm going to let Kenny tell you his story, let Gina tell her story, and then sort it out with John and some of the other folks from the audience. We also have, so Gina, Herbert Wayne has 5 houses, and they're all related. So we have Gina, her sister, another sister, and her husband James. So we have a good amount from it. But when you hear their experiences, you will see what these folks are up against. So Kenny, you want to start with yours, because you can kind of basically go over with the map.
This is a map of our area, but in a 2-mile range, approximately about a 2-mile range. It's a little town called Millsboro, Delaware. And within Delaware, or Millsboro, we have 1 chicken plant. And as of last Monday night, Sussex County turned around and gave another company the permission to open up another chicken plant, which will be approximately 1,500 foot from my house. Thus, the reason for my lag screw. Yes, Sussex County screwed me. So, let me go. I'm going to give you an idea of what we're facing. To the north of me, by 1 mile and 1/10, let me see where we're at. There's a chicken plant. Within that chicken plant, to the north of me, keep going, we have 13 spray fields. 1 spray field is 1.95 miles, which is up about here. We have another one, 1.62 miles, which is right over next to it. Another field, 1.44 miles. Another one, 1.64 miles. Another one, which is a ½ mile. And another one, which is 1 mile. Now, to the northeast of me, 3,184 feet, there's another spray field. To the northwest of me, 3,254 feet, there's another spray field. Then we have another one, 1 mile, and 1 mile, 1.5 miles, 1.39 miles, and 1.77 miles. Now, all the way up, this being 113, our beautiful county government 2 months ago, way up 8 miles to the northwest of us, they put a, get the wording right, a manure to energy plant. I usually don't use that word manure. I usually call it what it is. Now, to the west or northwest of me, there is a chicken vaccine plant, which is 1 mile from me. Right next to that is the town sewer, which I do not have sewage, or I should say I do not have town sewage. Now 2 miles to the northwest of me, back in 2005, there was a chicken vaccine plant that leaked TCE, or commonly known as trichloroethylene, into the town's water. Where I'm at, we have well water that is undrinkable. But the town water, just about every store in town sold cases of water. And within a few months, they had a charcoal system put on the 2 wells and a deeper well drilled. Now, to the southwest of me, this is what they just blessed me with this week, is a chicken plant, or a chicken deboning plant, which is 2,250 feet. And next to it, this area right here, that's going to be their spray field. Down, right about here, off the map, is going to be their, well, it's already there, it's a hatchery for this place. That's going to be 3.3 miles away from me. And also, I forgot this, I skipped over that. To the west of me, right here, back in the 80s and 90s, was a company called NCR, National Cash Register. They had a Superfund site that had chromium and every other godly known thing that came out of this. The little creek here is called Iron Branch Creek, and this creek here is called Burton Branch. They both meet here, and they come out right about here. Now, also, right here is a quarry, cement plant, and asphalt plant. And this bad boy over here to the east of me, that's a coal-powered power plant. So, just where the hell do I live? Bada boom. Right in the center of it. So no matter what way the wind blows, I'm getting it. The water, as you can tell, my water is not drinkable. No matter which way the underground plumes flow, I'm in it.
This is roughly an area of approximately
And
two square miles,
just to
a radius. Well, I'm sorry.
just to put our next speaker, Gina, over here in the middle of all this. Make sure I get it right here. Right there, she is in the middle of spray fields. They built the spray fields around. So,
No,
oh,
I wanted
Sorry.
to show you, get to pick up the beard. Santa Claus. I don't know if you can see the shirt.
my sister happened to make the shirt. She dug up a picture of me from 1966, sitting in a boat in the river when believe it or not, I could swim in the water, I could play in the water, and this picture, yes, the beard was that long 2 years ago, but what can I say? I would dare to go in that water right now. So, you see what we're talking about. And that's just part of Sussex County. To the north of us, we also have Milton, who is going through their problems of spray fields. And what the spray fields are doing, it's going down. Once the water sinks down, it's going into the aquifers, or wells, or anywhere from Jay's, who's 25 foot deep, mine's 110 foot deep. Majority of my people, my neighbors around, are all between 25 and 50 foot deep. The wells, I know darn good. Damn, I said that right without saying the right word. Yes?
What's a chicken vaccine plan?
Margaret.
Oh, so it's pharmaceuticals.
Yes, they developed the chicken
Chicken
vaccines.
vaccines.
Thank you.
Yes, and that,
Actually, for all the years it's been there, we don't know what it actually makes. I think they're worse than the CIA.
they make the vaccines with the eggs because the neighbors there that are on either side of them complain all the time because of the snakes, the way they're not disposing of things properly, which is kind of scary when you're dealing with vaccines and things like that. This all came about, so SRAP, like I said, works with different communities. Protecting Our Indian River is the grassroots community group who, I mean, literally become like family. It's been 5 years, 2013.
We actually,
They beat the first
there
one.
was Jay, myself, and one of the neighbors. When it first started, it was actually June 3rd of 2013. We had a meeting at the fire hall. One of Wayne, who works for the fire department, got us a discount price free at the fire hall. And that's when I had a little fight with the Department of Agriculture of Delaware. Maria walked in, we didn't know who the hell she was. And I had said at the beginning, anybody and everybody that's got questions, we won't leave here until we get them answered. Maria got up, she started asking questions. And the agriculture secretary stood up and started saying, sit down, sit down, sit down. And I kind of told him, shut something up. I said at the beginning of the meeting, everybody gets a chance and every question gets answered. And Maria kept on going.
I have a little background, so a little background on me. I got into this kind of work because I was a community like that. And my family was directly across the street from industrialized farms. Not to take too much away, but the whole problem is and was constant rashes, cancer, this, that. The day they tested my son for cancer, that's probably when he was maybe 16. that was damaged. I said, that's it, I'm done. Tightness of chest, 8 years old, running them to MRSA, I mean, you name it. And mass mortality is coming out of blisters all over. So I was quite informed of this, and so knew the right questions to ask. But that's how you kind of expose
What's
it.
Kenny's family health like? I'm curious. How's your family health? If it's too personal, don't.
It wasn't until, when was that? A month ago? We were in Georgetown, Sussex County Council chambers. Maria had dug up a FOIA request. Presently, believe it or not, I believe my health, except for being old, is okay. And same with my wife. But about 3 days before this thing, when Jay was in California with his son, I was looking over this FOIA from 1991 from the people that were taking over this chicken deboning plant here, or wanted to build it. It used to be owned by Vlasic years ago, Vlasic Pickle. And in 1991, they had sent a letter to DENREC, which is Delaware's Department of Natural Resources. Actually, I think they're crooks. But they sent a letter about, remember this is 91, talking about a plume of nitrates leaving the grounds of their property in mid-1988. DENREC never said a damn word about it. Pinnacle never said a word about it. The plume was heading from here into Possum Point, my development. And one of the guys that helps us is a retired EPA man. Because I'm not smart enough to know that. I'm only a dumb retired telephone man or ding dong. But we figured out that the plume moving about a foot a day would have taken approximately 8 years to reach the center of that Possum Point. In July 21st of 1996, I had just come down. At that time, I was living in Philly and working for Bell Atlantic of Pennsylvania. I had come down to take a vacation with my parents, my family, and my father was putting my mother in the back of his Bronco, not into the back seat, into the cargo area, because she could not stand up and she could not sit down. Why do I do this? Give me a minute, please.
Doesn't let Kenny get himself here. Oh, guys.
He took her to a hospital up in Philadelphia, which became that she was diagnosed with cancer. And she went back and forth into it. And she passed away in mid-99, 69 years old. Now, I'm getting a little scared shitless because I'm 3. I'm sorry for that language. but I'm 3 years away from that right now. Is that going to be me? I don't know. If it is, it'll probably be the only lotto I win when the man upstairs picks my number. But health-wise, family-wise, I believe me and my wife are okay, but the day before my mother was okay. So on January 20th she was okay. On the 21st she wasn't. So that's the only thing I know right now that really has affected my family. And like I said to the people in Georgetown when they went to approve this permit was, can I prove that this killed my mother? No, I can't. But can you prove it didn't kill my mother? No, you can't. But can we stop this from happening to anybody else? Yes, we can. And it's in your hands. And if you pass this, you will be signing our death certificates. And that's how I ended my speech to county council. And that just appeared in Wednesday's paper,
So,
News Journal.
in the interest of time, I said this 2 mile area, the reason that we found that out was because Dr. Jacoby Wilson here from University of Maryland, one of the students had done their senior project, and because of the politics and the lobbying of the industry, we could not get not even a public meeting with the Department of Health when they were proposing some of this. So they did something called a health impact assessment, a rapid health impact assessment, which is a tool that's used for local governments to kind of assess the area to see what's in there, and that's how you know it's an environmental justice area. They take census data, they take emergency room visits, they take median income, they put a lot of data into the asthma rate, the cancer rate, how many industries are around, how many Superfund sites, how many brownfield, how much industry, and then they say, this community is overburdened and it's a vulnerable community. So that should send messages to local governments to say, enough here. Unfortunately, our government says, well, we have all this industry, so this is a good area for it because it's industrialized, which makes absolutely no sense. One thing I just want to point out, and this is going to deal with all of our communities here with Gina's too. Where we are, Sussex County we have competing businesses, tourism, right, because we're right at the beach, Rehoboth Beach, Lewis Beach, 10 miles. I live in Sussex County from Ocean City, Maryland. So you have the coastal region, which means that you have a very high water table. The fields, the soils are very, very sandy. Think of a beach. So when you're spraying on it, what's going to happen? I mean, think of, 3rd grade chemistry, right? You pour something in sand, what's it going to do? It goes right through. And that's where we're seeing massive water contamination. Can we get done? Okay, so in the interest of time, I want to turn it over. Okay, so we're going to turn it over to Gina. Maybe I should have you do an overview first.
Okay.
Should I? Okay, so let me talk a little bit about Jonathan. In our line of work, we're a nonprofit, but so we help with like communities helping develop comments for permits. That's how we actually found all of this stuff, because Mount Air wanted to expand and put a 3rd pickling line in. But we do educational. So once it crosses a certain line, I'm not allowed to cross that line because we're an educational nonprofit. In many of the communities you work with, it ends up going beyond that because you run into issues, and you'll hear about this here. Jonathan Niese is a partner of a friend that I've known for, oh my gosh, over a decade, back when I lived in Pennsylvania, Chris Nidel. They have a law firm, they operate out of Washington, D.C., and they have helped many, many communities in these type of situations. So I'm going to let John just go over a brief overview. I'm going to let you lay it out.
Sure.
How you like.
So my name is Jonathan Niese, like you said. I'm an attorney. And what happens is people like Gina or Kenny or several other communities, I mean, it gets to a point where they do fear for their health, and they have already been sick or they have health effects. I'm working with Gina and her community now on what's going on. They showed this, the picture of the chicken shit coming out of the pipe there that's watering the fields, right? You know, if you don't know, one thing is just to sort of back up. You know, we talk about how many chickens they have. And the problem is what to do with all of their waste. And what these so-called farms do is they grow something, soybeans or whatever they can think of. And that's supposed to be the way to dispose of it. The real problem in this community is, you know, we represent now somewhere between 75 and 100 individuals living around these spray fields. You know, they all are on well water. And this stuff is running right into their wells. So, without going too much, you know, into the science, the big problem is the nitrates that are in the chicken excrement. The nitrates, you know, the EPA sets a maximum contaminant level, 10 parts per million. You know, some of these people are three times that. The reason they're 3 times that is because the amount of nitrogen that they're spraying out of those pipes is, you know, 10 to 20 times what they're permitted to do. So what we have here is a chicken processing plant that has a permit to spray waste onto the fields up to a certain limit. And basically, since at least 2015, it seems like, from what we've seen so far, they have essentially ignored that limit. And of course, Gina and Kenny and whomever else living around there, all of our clients, have no idea that that's what's going on. Have no idea that this stuff is leaching into their wells and they're drinking it. Some of the health effects from that is nitrate. Without going too much into it, nitrates cause hypoxemia throughout. It's believed that they react with oxygen in the body and, you know, decrease the amount of oxygen that's in your blood. This is especially dangerous to pregnant women, to children, and we see things like blue baby syndrome, miscarriages, congenital defects, and also cardiovascular problems, as well as, you know, gastrointestinal problems from drinking chicken shit. So there's a lot of health effects that come with that. Now, Gina and her community discovered this because suddenly bottled water started showing up on people's door with no explanation. I'll let her tell, you know, a little more about that. But, you know, enough was enough at that point, and they called me. And the question is, what can be done from a legal perspective? And there are things that can be done, but there's also, you know, powerful lobbies against those things that they try to do. So we look at several, you know, types of actions that we can bring, and you know, the first thing you can talk about is negligence. You know, is this chicken plant, is it acting negligently? There's several things you have to prove in order to bring a case like that. There's public and private nuisance. That can get you anything from, basically the point of that is your neighbor, or is this processing plant impeding your use and enjoyment of your home? If you can show that, you're entitled to damages. What has happened, you know, maybe you're familiar, maybe you're not, is the so-called, you know, right to farm laws. And you love the name, right? The right to farm, as opposed to the right to spray chicken shit on your neighbor.
Kind of what we were talking about over there with Jacoby with the energy, right?
So, you know, right to farm laws, I don't think every state has them, but, you know, they've been popular for a while, and it's probably pretty close to every state at this point, if it's not. Essentially what it says is, both in Maryland and in Delaware, is if they're acting within their permit, if they're complying with the law, you can't sue for negligence, for nuisance, or really for some of these other federal statutes I'm going to talk about too. But for instance, in the Millsboro case that we have, they're not complying with their permit. And so, in showing that, they don't have this right to farm immunity that we think will be successful getting passed. One thing to consider is farming, what is farming is sort of a question that has taken on new meaning. Everyone is, no matter what you're doing industrially, yeah, supposedly it's farming. I mean, is chicken processing farming? I mean, doesn't seem like it. But they will claim that that's what they're doing by spraying this, stuff on the fields. They're also farming, But the problem is the chicken processing. We have a case right now where a guy is, it's not really a toxic case, toxic pork case, but a guy has basically drilled a well deeper, a commercial well deeper, and has sucked all the water out of his neighbor's wells, and they're losing water. That's in Pennsylvania. He called that farming. It's farming water, I guess. So the point is, everything is farming, I guess, if you're in the country. So if you can show that they're violating their permit, or if you can show that they're violating an EPA law, maximum contaminant level, in a lot of these states you can get around it. So be aware, and those are the kinds of things that you're looking to show, that they're not in compliance with what they're permitted to do. One of the things that has been, and we hope will be very useful to the Millsboro case, to Gina's case, is some of these federal statutes that have come into play. There's one, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. We have now put the EPA, DNREC, the Delaware Department of Natural Resources, and Mount Air on notice that we're going to bring this federal law claim, Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, called RCRA. And what that law does, essentially, by violating their permit, our clients are able to bring what they call citizen suit. And they say, you're not complying, and by the way, Delaware, you're not doing your job. You're not holding them accountable, so we're going to do it ourselves. So you give them notice, they basically get a chance to do the right thing. And in 60 days, if they haven't, you can go to court and you can get it, you can bring your case to try to get an order to compel them to stop doing what they're doing. And of course, it comes with fines and it gets your attorney's fees paid for and things like that. But the real benefit to that is, most people in these communities, Gina and everyone else, what they really want is they want clean water. They want to be able to drink the water coming out of their tap. And so while that law will not get you damages for health effects or injuries or miscarriage or any of those things, it can be a tool, a legal tool, to fix the problem. We talked about the Clean Water Act as well. I mean, the Clean Water Act has a similar provision, a similar citizen suit provision. It's sort of lost some of its luster because, if they were to stop spraying in excess of their permit, as soon as they stop doing that, there's no case. They can say it's over, we've complied. And the Clean Water Act is really a focus on waterways, federal waterways, rivers, lakes, oceans, things like that, as opposed to the drinking water. But I mean, that's a real problem, obviously. If you're polluting a river and you want to play in the river, you can use the Clean Water Act to clean it up. So those are some of the federal laws. And, one other thing I should say about it is both RCRA and the Clean Water Act do have nonprofit provisions. If you're a nonprofit and you're engaged in this area, there's certain things you have to show to have what's called institutional standing. But if you can do that, the nonprofit can bring the case to do it, to clean up the problem itself. So
Can a for-profit bring the case?
I don't think so. I think you have to be. That is a good question. Actually, I haven't heard of that. I'm not positive. In the Millsboro case, we're working with Food and Water Watch. So all the individuals have put them on notice. Also, Food and Water Watch is technically a client that's going to bring the claim as well, and another law firm that's also a nonprofit law firm, Public Justice, is working with us as well on that. So it's a good tool. It doesn't get you everything, but it could fix the problem. Gina sort of talk about the problems that she has had. One other thing I could go into, that's come up in the Millsboro case is legal procedure. That's we have not filed a class action. I don't know if anyone is. Most people think of a class action and they think of the little card they get in their mail that says if they fill it out they get $2.99 back or something like that. We do class actions. Sometimes they're useful and sometimes they're not. In a case like Gina's where you have personal injuries, everyone in this town has been affected differently. No one has the same problem. And that's not the type of thing that a class action is good for. So if that's the situation, the best thing to do is to organize everyone together and bring what's called a mass action. So everyone has their own case consolidated into one. And that's what, for the most part, we've been able to do in Millsboro. There's another competing group. Most of the people on Herbert Lane and Justice Lane, I feel like, have signed up with us. And so, we can present this united front and at the same time address everyone's individual needs based on what we can and can't prove.
So that brings us to Gina and her family. And if you have tissues, get them out because you're going to need them because this gets very, very heartbreaking, this story. 2 quick comments. When I held these up, all these, what you're seeing here, the right to farm laws years ago were put in place to protect the small family farmers. This is what is happening now, which is we have Somerset County, Maryland, after Hall's community. In a 3-mile radius, they have 3-mile radius, 112 650-foot long poultry houses, edge to edge on the property. We call them no-land farms, meaning that, see how all these are bordered by trees? Look, there's the neighbor's land. So it's not like a house or 2 houses on hundreds of acres with the, just to say, well, that's what it used to be years ago. Farming's changed to where now it's becoming increasingly large. So let me bring you up to Gina Burton. And like I said, we help with permits and stuff like that socially. And Jay actually saw the permit come out for an expansion of Mount Air. And when we started going through these papers, we found some of this, and I'm going to let Gina take it.
I'm going to be brief. I'm going to talk about some health issues, and I'm going to let my sister talk about property issues. Growing up and raising my kids, I never once said, oh, this is because of Townsend's. Never once said this is because of Mount Air. You just go to the doctor, pay your co-pays, take whatever medication they give you. 2 things in life is you need oxygen and water. You need oxygen to breathe. You need water to keep all the other functions going. Once that gets contaminated, then you start having the health issues. Oxygen is very, very important. You need it to breathe. When your brain doesn't get oxygen, you don't do well, you don't think well, you don't live well. Your brain controls your other body functions. I want to talk about, me and her, out of 6 children, is the only 2 had asthma. We grew up with asthma. So we know all about it. We and I had the doctorate degree, but we know the experience of asthma. My son, he was born with asthma, but my daughter wasn't. Grew up with him, raising him, back to his oxygen. He didn't learn well. He didn't do well in school. They declared him mentally disabled, learning disabled. taking him to the doctors and the hospitals. Every month he's staying in the hospital. But he was one of them children you couldn't keep in the house. He ran from house to house to house, playing with his friends. Couldn't keep him inside. You know, living around chicken houses in the plant my whole life, his whole life. Breathing in the dust from the chicken houses. Breathing in the odors coming from the manure. Breathing in the odors coming from the plant where the smoke's coming out of the stacks. The irrigation they're spraying, and just couldn't stop it. But one thing I want to say is some people say, oh, I've been to Denver, asked them to test my water, and they say, oh, you fine. So if Denver came to my house, test my water, said I was fine, my water was fine. But when my son stays to his friend's house over there, stays to his friend's house over there, how do you know if their water's fine? You can't get your water tested because your child stays over there for the weekend. When you get a head cold and your nose is stuffy, you know how you just can't breathe? A person with asthma, with your nose stuffy, take a plastic bag, put it over your head, twist it. It's 10 times worse with asthma than with a head cold and a stuffy nose. There are so many medications out there for asthma that the doctors prescribed my son. 2014, I was in the hospital visiting a friend, and I got a call, and they said, Gina, you better come because he wants to have an asthma attack. I said, you know, call 911, and I'm coming. So it takes from 30 minutes to get to Millsboro, 20 minutes from Millsboro to BB Hospital. So I tell my mother, go get his car keys and go to the hospital. I get to Millsboro, I get the phone call. The hospital want to know where you at, it's critical. I said, how we go to an asthma attack to being critical? So I get to the hospital, my mother's already there, and the chaplain meets me in the front lobby. He takes me to the room where my mother's sitting, and he says, I'm sorry, he didn't make it. I said, didn't make it? So, and the doctor comes in, and he says, he died of an asthma attack. I said, how do you die of an asthma attack? Who dies of an asthma attack these days with all this medication? With all these medications out here. So I still, from 2014 to the day, has not accepted the fact that he died from an asthma attack, because who dies from an asthma attack? But on top of that, with myself, you know, waking up in the middle of the night, sleeping on your knees because, you know, you get up, put stuff on your legs and put on socks and sleep on your knees because you have leg cramps so bad. Walking doesn't help. Gatorade, as they say, doesn't help. I work for the prison, Department of Corrections. You know, driving to work, stopping along the road, excuse my friend, vomiting out the door, shut the door, proceed to work, stopping, you know, vomiting, running home from work where I was just vomiting and vomiting. My mother's taking me to the hospital. They said I had gastrointestinal problems. I done had surgeries. Then I went down and opened up my esophagus, thinking that's going to stop the problem. I mean, it's just, you know, I done lost my hair. Every time I wash my hair, like, I just have handfuls of hair just comes out. It just, and then, you know, you just go to the doctor. But like I said, water, oxygen is the two main things you need in life. Once that becomes violated, contaminated, you got to find out what the cause is and what's the root of it, and something that just has to be done. And I'm just gonna let my sister talk about the problem issues.
Come on, let's just come up here. Just to add in a little bit, we'll get a chance if we have a little bit of time at the end. We have still you. Come on up. Yeah, come on up. Just while it's coming up. So you have to Herbert Lane, where Gina and her whole family grew up and lived. There's 5 houses going by, and this is where we're talking about the buffers of the spray fields. Gina and the whole all their wells were contaminated. This is what we found in the file, and we were trying to expand. back in 2003. Since 2000 to 2018 we're in, Mount Air has never met their permit limits. Let me repeat it again. From 2000 to 2018, they have never met their permit limits. This is why we need citizen suits. Where's these agencies? Where's these agencies? When we started talking to the community, there's 1, 2, 3 people in one community that have a very rare birth defect with the ear. In one community.
My daughter,
Neighbors.
she had
The daughter.
like a lump around here that looked like a small extra ear, and it had a little teeny hole in it. I think when she was 8 years old, the doctor surgically removed it, but you can still see the I guess the bone from it, but it's still, you can still see it a little bit. But she had it moved at the age of 8. She was born with it.
It's a small, it's a very rare congenital defect in a group of 150 people that got 3. I mean, we're talking, this is one in, I don't know the numbers, but,
It's at
many
least-
thousand,
yeah. No, it's over, well over
Might be
100, a couple
10,000 or
hundred
something,
thousand,
yeah.
yeah. You should not have 3 in one little, this is how you start, talk to neighbors. I'm talking next door neighbors, multiple miscarriages. Go Herbert Lane, tumors all over the body. This is just one in the family. Amputee, but from lack of oxygen. Learning disabilities, from what? Lack of oxygen. Clean water is a human right.
And then,
Should be.
for
Right?
the property,
Isn't
we
it?
noticed that our trees are dying. We have irrigation surrounding us. We have strange plants growing, like, we got dead trees, but there's mushrooms growing on the tree. They're the most beautiful mushrooms you ever want to see. And we're like, how do mushrooms grow on a dead tree? We got that, and we also have replaced water heaters in our home. Our faucet, our house is fairly new. We built it in 2009. We already replaced the faucets where they deteriorate. I don't know where it's coming from. You can't sit outside because the odor is so bad. Certain time in the morning, certain time in the evening, when the wind blows, the irrigation right beside of us, it blows, it sprays. We have no buffers. Sometimes it gets on our vehicle. Even coming home through our private lane, we have irrigation running on both sides. Sometimes I have to sit at the mailbox, because it's about a quarter mile from our home, call Mountain Air and say, can somebody please turn the irrigations off so I can go to my house? We have to do that constantly, and the smell of irrigation is not good. I mean, it deteriorates the paint on your car, even though the property, like if you want to sell a home in the future, you probably won't, because everyone knows that, the well's contaminated, they got all this here. We on the news pretty big. So therefore, our property could decline as far as selling it. Because now, constantly test your water, like they were saying earlier, yes, we weren't the ones that delivered water on our step. We had to ask for water. And our nitrates level was so high, we had to ask for water because we were buying water. And no one ever offered. So we didn't know what was going on until they wanted a permit to put another poultry line in. So it's just like we was kind of left out the loophole, and they would say, in the middle, it's not affecting them. But it does affect them. Yes, I'm asthmatic. My daughters are asthmatic. My grandkids are asthmatic. It is, especially in the summertime, it's even worse. In the winter, I didn't think irrigation was supposed to run, but it runs in the winter. You can see the stuff come out of it frozen, stuck on the tires, coming out of irrigation. And you can see like fat build up. So, it's just, they say not run it, but the water on our property to get to my home is gravel lane. So water is pooling over we have to drive our vehicles to it. So guess what we're doing? We drive our vehicles to it, we get in our garage and park, then it's on our feet and we take it in our house. So there you have it.
Somebody had a question.
Yeah, I have a question, but it's a question that I already know the answer to. But I'm pretty
Those are
sure
good,
it's
though,
a question that many are sitting here asking themselves. If your community is affecting you that much, and is that hazardous to your health, why do you stay? What keeps you staying there?
Well, we just found out, you know, like I said, when we had medical conditions, we just go to the doctor, pay the co-pays, take the medication, for whatever they give us. We didn't know that our conditions was led to any of this until, you know, we was, you know, Maria and them, you know, brought it to our attention.
I mean, a couple things about that. First, she's right, they didn't know, this has been going on for years before people knew this was happening. But she just brought up, you know, another point, property value. I mean, your house is your number one investment. They lost, you know, their property value to just walk away from it. You know, I think, I don't know how many generations you've been there as well. I mean,
That
these are
lane
people's homes.
It's named after my grandfather.
Right. So-
Right, like I said, I mean, I know the answer to the question.
Right.
But, you know, I'm pretty sure, because I'm sitting here saying to myself, I done got up and, but I know that there's things that tie a lot of us to our communities. And if I don't fight for my community, then who will? And if I don't help make the changes, then the generations coming behind me are gonna lose. So I understand why you haven't moved.
Well, my oldest sister can basically tell you about my grandfather selling a lot of acres to Townsend's, their previous owners.
My grandfather was a sharecropper. He was born like 1890.
Yeah, does
And
everybody
he
know what a
had-
sharecropper is?
Yeah. Glad you said
Everybody?
that.
Yeah, okay.
So pretty much he was raising crops for Townsend's. He was working for them. So my grandma, my grandfather had 18 children. My mother is number 17. So that property has been there. They had that property ever since then. And you know, we grew up playing baseball and stuff in those fields because there was no irrigation. So it was like, you know, later on, because in 2000, Mount Air purchased Townsend. My father worked for Townsend, okay, he retired. But the thing of it was is that, you know, in 2000, they purchased, you know, the property, then eventually things started to come out, like later on, like 2015. But then when you did some research, it went back to 2003. And by me going onto the internet and seeing some court cases, and then, you know, the company's not even owning up to anything because they feel like this was going on prior to them coming on board. But, you know, it was like later on I started seeing like this, you know, having the smell. I took an actual video of that picture where you see that slush coming out. I have the actual video. I took it on Easter of last year.
And they did it on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Yes,
I want you guys to hear this.
yes.
But guess what? Both days, guess what? Guess what's closed? The
Mother's Day.
regulatory agency.
November.
Guess what? To take this end cap off of here, that's a criminal violation.
And that's my picture, and I actually have a video
Mother's
of
Day and
that.
Easter.
And I was standing in my sister Donna's yard, and I took the picture, and I was talking, and I was saying how it was stinking. I said, oh my God, like sludge is coming out. And I mean, I would hate to go back there because it would stink that bad. And it's family property, and now because they Mount Air decided to put irrigation so close to the lane that they drive through, which is so ridiculous. And now, and you know, we did meet with them at our aunt's house, and my aunt is a W amputee from vascular disease. Okay, and so with all these challenges, you know, it's like, yes, you know, it would be nice to be able to leave, but at the same time, my sister's paying mortgage, so she can't sell it. She can't sell her house, and she got to pay her mortgage. So so there's other ones back there that's paying mortgage, and it's really difficult right now.
I'm just going to interject just a little quick two things, because in 2003, when the EPA they had signed a consent order, Mount Air had signed, that they had to give them ion exchange systems. So at this point, everybody thought, well, everything's okay. Until now November, they got violated. And we were hammering them pretty hard because I said, look what's going on over here. I'm communicating with the agency and well, it was over 100 violations. Finally, we got them to do in November, the agency. the levels, so I think the nitrogen level is supposed to be under 16, I'm thinking, somewhere around
For what?
there. For the permit levels in the spray field.
Yeah, I think it's 15.6 milligrams per liter.
15.6.
And some of them, I mean, at times it was 640.
600 and, right, I know, I remember reading 610. Supposed to be under 16 nitrogen. Coliform was supposed to be under 200
Yeah, I mean, the
colonies.
bacteria is out of control.
That's bacteria.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it was 1.1 or 2 or 4. Under 200 is supposed to be. This is all health hazards. I mean, and from somebody who has a home that walked away, I can tell you there's going to be a movie, I guess I can tell you about, coming out next year, called Right to Harm. And documentaries makers followed, Dallas restaurants followed around, I was one of the people they followed around. But, so my house was in Pennsylvania. I'm paying close to, my property tax is a little over 5,000. My county tax, another 1,000. And then I have to upkeep a house, right? The roof, that was $11,000 for a partial part of the flat roof 2 years ago. This is on a house I can't sell, but it's all paid for. That's everything our family worked for all these years. I'm 50-some years old. I mean, there are no good options. There's no good options. We had some hands over. Yes?
So have you, through your work, have you ever seen any kind of remedy? Have you seen a permit level, a facility meet a permit level or shut down a facility or not have a facility come up or anything?
So come on up, Monica, this brings our other panelist up. So Monica lives in Wicomico County, okay, where they're doing all of these. And I shall say, John was quite instrumental in this one. They won. How many years?
2 years.
And push back. I'll let you talk. Go ahead. Monica is from Salisbury, Maryland. Everybody know Wicomico County, which is right next to Somerset County. And Monica organized her community. They did, when they invited me in, there was a room full of hundreds of people. This woman did not stop. Go ahead, Monica.
And I'm going to be brief because I feel like there's much more here. But just to give a brief for ordinary citizens and what could they do. This is the brief part I'll speak on. For our community, when we discovered, it was 2014, 13 No Land CAFO project coming to our community, and what all that meant. A couple things. One, it was not publicized. Nobody wanted us to know. We found out kind of by happenstance. When we tried to research, there was a little tiny blurb in one particular article about this big that was kind of on a back page of something that we found. We had to do our own research. Immediately, once I found this out, I just started an online petition the same day, made flyers and started passing it out. Through that, I went down to our county government saying, what's going on? And they were kind of like, nobody wanted to say anything. Through these flyers, I connected with another community, and we formed Concerned Citizens Against Industrial CAFOs. We thought we can just go down to our county, speak to them, and say, hey, we don't want this is ridiculous, shut it down. The actual land was owned by someone who didn't even live in our state. They lived in Virginia. Tyson was the producer who wanted to come in and get its foot into Wicomico County. And so this was a thing that, was part of the problem. So when we went to our county and spoke to them, thinking, hey, we're a small town and everybody knows everybody, surely you will listen to us. But the headquarters in Salisbury, Maryland is Purdue. Purdue their name is on everything imaginable around Wicomico County and beyond. So they present themselves as good neighbors and we love you all people, and we built this Purdue School of Business at the Salisbury University. We built wellness centers, all kinds of stuff. So this idea of anything you mention related to poultry instantly sends up a flag in the region of you're trying to come against Purdue, but no, we don't want to make them angry because they pay for what we have. They're the reason why our community is thriving, etc. So fast forward, we went to make meetings and we presented. Initially, they discounted us as ignorant. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just causing problems, that sort of thing. Okay, so you think we don't know what we're talking about? We brought our research. We brought the research. We spelled the research. This research does not relate specifically to this county. Okay.
Pennsylvania, right? They were trying to, because it's gonna fall right into the community. So we brought a bunch of research on the emissions coming out of, that's part of the problem with the fans. And Bill Satterfield, head of the Margaret poultry industry, was with the county council, and they said, well, this is Pennsylvania research. We don't have any Maryland data. Well, you know, ammonia is ammonia, whether it's in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, New Jersey, it has the same health effects, right? And let's be real. We need data, we need Maryland data. Go ahead.
Obviously, the whole thing was just a whole rouse to just get us to go. Go away, we don't want you here, get out of here. Well, then they said, there's only a few of you talking. So we brought hundreds of people in droves. Each time we came, we brought in people. That led to town hall meetings, we got publicity, we got people coming in. Maria, we got Center for a Livable Future came in and provided us with data, provided us with all the health studies, provided us with enough information. We did protests, we did everything that we can do to prevent this project. We hounded them so much to where they finally said, okay, well, we'll do something. They did setbacks. They also produced, by the way, a faulty health assessment. We had been asking for a health assessment for a long time, and they said we don't have the money for that. But then they did a sneaky one on the side, sneak, and we found out through the.
We found out because another community I was working with. This is so interesting. Another community I was working with in by Rising Sun, Maryland. I'm trying to think of the name of the county off the top of my head. We're running out of time. So Calvert, was it Calvert County? No. Cecil. Thank you. Cecil County. So I was working with Cecil County, and Purdue was trying to come into there, and there was a form there, and I said, it was referencing a health impact study that was done in Wicomico County, which is Monica's county. I said, they didn't do any health impact study in Wicomico County. So I emailed the health department, what was her name?
Lori.
And I said, Lori, yeah. I said, did you do a health impact study? Is that possible? And we don't know about it? Because part of a health impact is the community is supposed to be involved, they're stakeholders. Right? And it came out, oh, they did it, but they didn't let us know about it. And guess what? It came out to favor them.
Because, right, exactly. And
that's
they utilized
the Community Healthy Air Act.
Yes.
You gotta get full circle.
We came against that Community Healthy Air Act. We came against the health assessment. We showed all the faultiness of it. We called it out. We got lots of news about it. They put in some setbacks that we are not in agreement with, but it was something compared to nothing. And to come fast forward, because we were not getting support from our delegates, I went and spoke in Annapolis. I went to the Senate Majority Leader. I spoke to Governor Hogan. I've spoken to anybody and everybody you can think of who all want to say, well, how come you can't handle this locally? Because our local politicians are in the pocket of the poultry industry. So I said this, and they said, well, you don't want to mess with, this is Governor Hogan, you do not want to mess with the poultry industry because they are your bread and butter. I said, no, they are the 5th largest provider of jobs in Wicomico County. They are not the top 4. So now what? So after all of this, we push forward, realize now we got to do laws. So we try to do the Community Healthy Air Act, which our first year we got traction, but
would require what? All it required is, what did DPI and the local government say that we needed? Maryland data, right? That's all we asked for.
So we try to get Maryland data.
Maryland data.
And they fought us tooth and nail, but if you have nothing to hide, why are you fighting? So the first year, squashed. This past year, we got really great traction in the Senate. House, we got drama going on in the House, but we still have a lot of people talking about it. So that is where we are now. is we're gonna get legislation passed no matter what. And this project that we did, just for anyone else who may be fighting, we just stalled them until we couldn't stop, till we stalled until they had to leave. That's what we did. We just came, any kind of suit we can think of, appeal, protest, signs, until they were like, forget it, and they left.
Worked it out the first time, and they sold the property, yes.
What legal arm did you use?
Oh gosh, okay, what arms, you mean?
I mean, what legal organization?
Okay, we used, well, Nidel law, we used environmental
Final kicker.
justice, Lord, what's here, Washington DC?
Earth Justice?
Earth Justice, which they kind of did an overview for us, but they didn't really fight for us, but we ended up using Rosemary, who used to be an attorney in Queen Anne's County. And she's now in New York, but she fought for us as well. So we had a few different things because this is the issue. Because it's newer in Maryland with this whole poultry thing, there is not as much precedent. So you have people who are very equipped in environmental law, environmental justice, but specifically about this poultry thing, it's a lot newer. And so it's more prevalent, kind of a little bit more of a history in North Carolina. But the person in North Carolina wasn't available to us. So we were just thankful to get piecemeal defenses, a little bit of this, a little bit of this person can bring us this far, a little bit of this person can bring us this far, and a little bit of this person. And if you get yourself as nonprofit status, then you can also get the benefit of people who can do pro bono. And there's some people who will do pro bono either way. But I can definitely talk to you about that. But we just fanned out and searched and ran our mouth as much as we could and talked to any kind of news outlet we could until we can try to get some sort of.
If my partner was here, he could tell you, just to give you background on the poultry industry. Years ago, he brought a case against Purdue, a Clean Water Act case, and the Democratic governor at the time was on the radio and in the paper screaming about frivolous lawsuits suing good old Purdue. That's the way it is in these communities right now. And even Mount Air, every time they come out with some press release, we've been a good corporate citizen for 20 years.
They sponsor scholarships.
And they've been putting nitrates in these wells for 20 years without telling anyone. So, the poultry industry definitely has a foot in the door that the people do not.
Am I allowed to talk about the Jesus Fund?
Bless you, my son.
I'm talking about the Jesus Fund. Stop, okay? You gotta get this real quick. So, there's a lot of these places like to represent themselves as being conservative, religious type places. So, they get to the ball clubs and they talk about you did all this and you get your food bank and this and that. Well, when I do background digging, I found the CEO of Mount Air at the Arkansas address where the PLLC is, he's the CEO of something called the Jesus Fund at the same location, which is a nonprofit. So go online, you can find the tax forms right there. They donate millions of dollars to the Jesus Fund. They didn't mention that. They came and gave their little talk about giving the ball teams. And just Google Trump Huckabee Jesus Fund. That's all I gotta say. And see how many millions of dollars poured into the campaigns. Wow. That's all you need to know. No, come after me. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad reality. Thank you, everyone.